You come home after a long day at work to a house that looks exactly as you left it. You walk back in, your dog greets you from the couch, and the day appears to have been entirely mundane. Researchers at the University of Milan wanted to see if that calm was a reality. They installed hidden cameras in 23 homes to track exactly how dogs behave the moment the door closes. The footage showed a frantic initial phase. Vocalizations like whining and howling began on average just 3 minutes and 15 seconds after the owner departed. By the 7-minute mark, many dogs were already engaging in destructive behavior. Eventually, the barking and the scratching stop. The house returns to a state of total silence. We equate this silence with a dog that has settled down and accepted the situation. However, the camera footage suggests this quiet period marks a shift in how the animal experiences your absence, rather than a conclusion to their distress. Biometric data reveals what the silence hides. Even when the barking finally stops, a dog's panting often increases, and their heart rate remains severely elevated. This clinical data shows separation panic is cyclical. Instead of declining toward calm, dogs experience a neurological spike of distress every 25 minutes. The troughs between spikes represent a buildup of physical exhaustion, operating at a physiological red line for hours. In the 1960s, psychologist Martin Seligman described this state as learned helplessness. In a 2016 revision of his work, he noted that organisms under inescapable stress don't learn to be quiet. Passivity represents the brain's default biological response to prolonged panic. A dog lying motionless after an hour alone is often experiencing a biological shutdown, a state far removed from the logical acceptance owners assume they are seeing. To understand the long-term impact, a 2019 study analyzed cortisol levels captured in canine hair samples. Because hair reflects hormonal accumulation over months, it provides a history of the dog's internal stress environment. The findings revealed a strange anomaly. The most severely anxious dogs frequently showed depleted long-term cortisol levels compared to calmer animals. These depleted reserves indicate that the animal's stress response has physically burned out after months of constant high-intensity activation. This burnout cycle is reinforced by pre-departure cues. Dogs learn to sequence your routine backward, meaning their physiological stress levels begin to climb the moment you reach for your shoes or your keys. Researchers at the Royal Veterinary College used a study called Generation Pup to identify why some dogs fall into this cycle while others don't. They focused specifically on the twisted loop of the owner's return. When an owner returns to a mess and reacts with visible frustration, the dog links that arrival with fear. This cements a cycle of anticipatory dread at both ends of the day, the panic of you leaving and the fear of you coming back. Punishing a dog for past destruction fuels the very biological burnout that ensures they will panic again the next time the door closes. Common commercial tools like white noise or pheromone diffusers often provide negligible results. Puzzle toys can actually worsen the anxiety by providing a distraction that makes the eventual realization of your absence feel more abrupt. Introducing a second dog merely places two isolated nervous systems in the same environment. Research suggests this does little to address the specific dread tied to the owner's absence. That dread is often a shared experience. A study from Linköping University measured the synchronized cortisol levels of 58 dog owner pairs over several months. The data showed that an owner's chronic stress baseline directly drives the dog's cortisol levels. The dog's internal state mirrors the environment the owner creates before they ever leave the house. Most dogs enter their 8 hours of isolation already operating from a biological deficit inherited from their owner's own stress baseline. The clinical solution relies on a method called graduated exposure. This involves hundreds of micro-absences, such as touching the doorknob or stepping outside for only a few seconds before returning. These repetitions occur too quickly for the nervous system to trigger a panic response. Over time, they build a physical history of return that updates the dog's internal prediction system. Practitioners often see a tipping point at 40 minutes. Once the dog has enough internal evidence to tolerate 40 minutes of absence, they can typically transition to much longer periods without distress. Effective training provides the biological proof your dog's nervous system needs to understand that a closing door is the first half of an opening door.